Welcome to the ThunderCast, your martial athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hudnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can find us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod. And of course, over on Facebook, we happen to have a page there as well. So go over and give us a like. Also, head down to the ThunderCast YouTube channel and give it a subscription. Hit that post notification button so that you never miss any of the content that we post. And if you're watching, give us a thumbs up on those videos so it helps those herd fans find our content a lot easier. We sure do appreciate the help and getting the word out on the ThunderCast. Russ, it's a busy week in herd athletics. It was a must-win game, and the herd came through up in Norfolk, Virginia. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We've got another one on the horizon against, I think, what a lot of folks would consider a rival, even though this is a very relatively newly renewed rivalry against Appalachian State. We'll talk about that as well. Several other big things happening in and around herd athletics, and we'll get into all of it right after a quick word from our sponsors at 304carwreck.com. If you've been hurt in a wreck, visit 304carwreck.com on the web or on Facebook. Matt and Jason are experienced injury lawyers in Huntington who have helped many people just like you with claims throughout West Virginia, Ohio, and Kentucky. Car wrecks, truck wrecks, and injury claims aren't just something they do, it's what they do. Find them at 304carwreck.com. Busy week, some ups, some downs, and some kind of in-betweens. So let's start off this episode like we do every episode with 5 things every herd fan needs to know this week.
And just like every episode, these are always brought to you by Ignite Link, the Tri-State's premier IT management team. Number 1, Men's Soccer Sunbelt Awards. Pretty big showing.
Kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal. Let's talk about what they got here. Starting off with redshirt senior Milo Yosef, named both the Sun Belt Conference Player and Offensive Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
Junior Adam Omash, I know I'm saying that wrong. Aomash, I can't remember. They took the pronunciation thing off of Herd Zone, and
appreciate that.
I forgot how it was with the new update of the website. It went away, and they haven't been able to put it back up yet. But anyway, he earned Sunbelt Conference Newcomer of the Year. Matthew Bell, our freshman phenom, of course, gets the Sunbelt's Freshman of the Year award. And in addition to those, Vinicius Fernandez and senior Gabriel Alves were with Bell and Yosef, but all being on the first team, Sunbelt. And Aomash and grad student goalkeeper Oliver Simla earning second team. Crazy top to bottom. I mean, obviously they dominated the league for a lot of the year. They had a bad loss, at least one, and a bad couple of ties or whatever. They could have done a lot better in the win-loss column, even with the impressive year they already had, but they were that close. But this just goes to show you that all these individuals, how dominant they were as well.
Yeah, that Sunbelt first team all-conference team is riddled with Kentucky and Marshall players. Yeah. I think maybe only one was not from those two schools. Maybe there was 2, but the second team was a little bit more open to the remainder of the conference. But, man, Kentucky and Marshall in particular, just dominated the individual awards like you mentioned. But it just goes to show you what's building and what has already been built and continues to just reload in Huntington, West Virginia from that men's soccer program. And I know we have more about them coming up around the herd, and we'll get into that without any spoilers. But you can't take anything away from them as far as this Sunbelt article goes, because they absolutely dominated the all-conference teams and the individual awards. Amazing showing.
Yeah, and it's really good. I mean, not only for Matthew Bell as a freshman, of course, winning Freshman of the Year, but to be already on the first team all-conference and just man, it makes the future look pretty bright.
Well, I was watching some of the broadcasts of the game the other day, the Sunbelt quarterfinals, and they mentioned that Bell was tied for the lead in the nation with goals by a freshman. So it's not like he was just the best freshman in the Sun Belt. He's like among the elite freshmen in the nation, is what you would come to expect from Marshall men's soccer at this point in time. So again, it's just it says a lot about what he's bringing to the table. So I mean, you can't say enough about it. It's been a long time since Marshall's had a postseason all conference team or a bunch of individual awards that are just utterly dominated by a herd men's team or a herd women's team, really. So this is cool to have one of those again.
Things like this really help with recruiting too. So, if you've got a freshman phenom and you are recruiting that person, you can say, hey, our freshman from last year won the freshman of the year in the conference that we're in, which is a good conference, and tied for the league lead nationally in goals by a freshman. Come here and you can do the same.
Yep. He's going to demand a lot of attention, which is going to give you a lot of opportunities.
We're going to keep it on the pitch, and we're going to keep it with Sunbelt Conference Awards and switch it over to women. And Marshall senior forward Morgan White, she was named to the first team all conference, and grad senior midfielder Kat Gonzalez was named to the second team.
Yeah, I kind of saw this one coming. We tried to keep close tabs on the women's soccer team this year, and they really seemed to turn a corner there to the middle end of the season and started doing some things, and it was really cool to see. But Morgan White and Kat Gonzalez had good years all year long. So if anybody was going to garner some attention from a conference standpoint, it was going to be those two gals, and they deserved every bit of it.
Yeah, and we're going to have a lot more about them in Around the Herd as well. So we'll talk more about that. But other players that weren't on the first or second team, they have a really good future there as well. They've got some core to build off of. And you're right, man. They turned a big corner toward the end of the year. And again, we'll get into that in a little bit. Swimming and diving picked fourth in the Missouri Valley Conference. So brand new conference, only going to be there 1 year, preseason, picked fourth, and we're going to have a lot more about them and Around the Herd as they just had their first meet of the season. Yeah. But we had talked about this. How cool would it be? You're there for 1 year, go in, sweep the awards, sweep the conference, win it. Peace, we're out.
Yeah, I was thinking, you said pick fourth, and my head went to Michael Scott, but it was like top 25%, but he's like, your branch is fifth out of six or whatever, or fourth out of fifth. He goes top 80%. That's what I felt like, top 25%. But still, that's pretty cool. I have no idea how many teams there are that are, making up this swimming and diving conference. How many teams there are, but I think fourth is pretty respectable, considering that we're not a historic part of this conference. We don't have any history with them really, and are coming in on a 1 year temporary deal, and picked fourth. So
out of 10.
Oh well, hey, so that's pretty good then. You live up to the hype and surprise a few folks along the way, and you might be in serious contention to, take a title, which would just be so cool. You're a 1 year rental and you walk away with the hardware.
I remember when we were looking at them as a destination, I thought I remembered how many it was, but I had 9 in my head. Maybe it's because they had 9 before we joined. So I had to look it up just now when you asked, when you said you didn't know how many there were, but yeah, we were picked to be in the upper part, and I've actually got that poll up. Let's see. We got 71 points. Missouri State led the way, 9 out of the 10 votes by the coaches. Indiana State got the other first overall vote. But just above us is third was Southern Illinois at 77 votes. Illinois State above them, and second was 79 votes, and then Missouri State running away with 99. Okay. So they would have swept had it not been for the one coach that did not pick Missouri State And I don't know if it's a situation where you can't or shouldn't pick your own, but that could have been the reason.
Could have been.
Could have been, but could have been the person voting for his own team over the other at Indiana
both
State.
coaches could have voted for their own school, right?
Yeah. All right. So the next on the agenda is number 4. We've been talking about this a little bit off and on, and it seems like on social media there's been a lot of people that weren't really aware of it. What's that tell you? More people need to know about the ThunderCast. That's so right. They can get all their info and not be 3 or 4 months behind. So all you guys that have been loyal listeners, you're going to recognize this story, and you need to pass on for people to watch our show so they will know news like this. Gullickson Hall has had a major facelift.
Huge facelift.
And we've talked about it. KD, when you were in before, you went over and looked. It was in the early stages at that point. I have talked about having some customers over there doing some things. So anyway, they sanded the floor, and it looks very, very nice. They were under the impression this might have been the first time that floor had ever been sanded. So that means that it has a lot more life in it, because they say lifetime you can get 3 sandings out of a floor. So that saved a lot of money without having to replace the floor. The paint and everything that they did, and if you remember, we talked about due to the HVAC issues, they ended up going with, and folks, this is the brand name, Big Ass Fans. And so they have 2 big ass fans in there. And anyway, if you look at the photos, go to the men's basketball or women's basketball. Also for the herd equipment, I think may have something up on it. I've seen this going on with the different stages and everything when the painters were in there after it was sanded and all the different stuff. It had this like brown everywhere, like just a mud brown, and a dark hunter green, and it just looked old and outdated. The floor looked old. It's all been done up really nice, green and white. The beams going one way, they're all green, and it's got big white in between it. It makes it look much bigger in there with going from the brown to the white. We're using this as a practice facility. Most of the things that we used to do for intramurals are now over in the rec. I don't know that they do have much going on in Gullickson anymore. So women's basketball, women's volleyball, men's basketball, they are all going to have a nice, clean, better facility in there, especially with the heat issue. And this was all due to some big donors, individual donors, and they made this happen. But I urge you to go look and see. This is what we were talking about brand uniformity to go in. We're talking about a practice facility getting the Kelly green and white makeover. So every single thing that you go to on Marshall, they're going with the Kelly green and just tying everything in together. And you gotta give it to Spears and his team for doing that.
It's not just that. I saw some pictures, of Gullickson, and it's the floor has the black border, just like the cam floor is supposed to have. So it's really a one-off, essentially, of the cam.
Right.
It's very cohesive in the way that it's painted to look like each other. They're painted to look like each other, but it looks so good. And I've got a great story that I just learned this past weekend about the paint job in Gullickson, and I'll share that with you when we're off the air, because it'll just make this, it'll take this episode off the rails a little bit, and nobody will care other than you, because it's just a cool fact.
I thought you were going to tell a story about Gullickson where an unnamed person on Team 2 soccer checked someone into a cinder block wall.
Well, no. And I also remember a separate incident where another individual on Team 2 soccer put a man in the hallway through the door. But I digress. That's the fun of college intramurals, ladies and gentlemen. If it's not full contact, it ain't no fun, and that counts for indoor soccer.
I think both of those broke records. Yeah.
and probably bones. And
I know a collarbone was broken. But seriously, fans, to get back onto it, go over and look at the photos of Gullickson. We shared those on our Twitter page, didn't we?
I don't know if I did or not. I was just now looking for them, and I couldn't remember where I saw them.
We're gonna. It was the basketball team tweet, so we'll go out there and we'll retweet it so everybody can see it.
It looks pretty sweet though.
Number 5, Marshall's last football win without a touchdown was against Dayton in 1976.
Yeah.
Steve Cotton, who does an amazing job, if you're not following him on Twitter, with his Sunday morning stats, and it's not just for football, he does stats year round that are great. But he had originally said 1923, and wow, 99 years, you know.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's 1924.
Whatever it was a long time ago.
1924, 98 years. I don't even think that a forward pass was something that people did back then. But anyway, even going back to 76, hell of a long time. So we're going to have more about that victory. We just wanted to put that stat out there, especially since Steve had to correct himself later on, and maybe some people didn't see the correction. They saw the original thing. But 76.
Yeah, that's older than me.
Before you and I were born.
That's right. I would recommend that everybody, if you're not, please go follow @HerdCotton, because not only is Steve Cotton just so much of what Marshall is, you know, I mean, can you imagine listening to somebody else call a touchdown? Really? I mean, yeah, Keith can do it. And, you know, and I'm used to hearing Mark Martin every now and then, maybe even Jake too, but there's only one Steve Cotton. And the Sunday morning stat tweet like dump is the greatest thing, because you learn so much that you wouldn't have otherwise realized. And some stuff you did realize and go, oh man, I remember that game. Because some of the stats that he brought up in this thread, I was like, dang, I remember that happening. But you know, it's lost in the back of my head amongst.
I bet you're talking about where he said the Vinnie Curry game and Cato's long
some
run.
Of it. Yeah. Some of that. Yeah. But look, you make a good point. That's an excellent 5 things. And, you know, a lot of positivity, especially around the soccer programs. And, man, Gullickson just looks so sharp. If you find yourself on campus this Saturday for the game, like sneak away for a minute and see if you can find an unlocked door and just peek in there, because it looks so good. But otherwise, let's talk about this game that just went down up at Old Dominion in Norfolk, Virginia, shall we?
Yep.
All right, the Herd travels up in a must-win game. There was no two ways about it. The Herd had to win this one to really, you know, try to keep something going and maintain hopes of bowl eligibility. Should they have lost this one, it still would have been a possibility, but man, what an 8-ball to be behind, staring them down the barrel of what was remaining on the schedule. But instead, Marshall goes up to Norfolk, Virginia and takes care of business against Old Dominion to the tune of 12-0. Nope, doesn't move the needle, doesn't blow you away, but I feel like right now at this stage, a win is a win, and we'll take any win no matter how we get it. Mm-hmm. This one could have been uglier, right? I mean, the red zone offensive woes continue for the Herd, and the defense continues to play stout. I mean, this one could have easily been lopsided quite a bit, you know, 21, 24 points or something like that. It could have been even more, but it just wasn't. So Marshall moves to 5-4 on the season, 2-3 in the Sun Belt Conference, and climbs out of the cellar in the SBC East, and now holds a tiebreaker over Old Dominion, who is in the cellar. Now also 7-1 all time against Old Dominion. So starting to play some teams with a little bit of history, and we're going to play one coming up with a whole lot of history, and we'll talk about that. You took one of my bullet points for the 5 things, and that's okay. That was the first road win without a touchdown, or the first win without a touchdown since 1976, a 9-0 win at Dayton. But I've got 3 more, 2 really positive ones, and one kind of not a bummer, but just one of those dang it type things. This was also the first road shutout win since 1983, a 35-0 victory over Morehead State. Reese Verhoff becomes one of 6 Herd kickers to kick 4 field goals in a game. But the lone kind of negative is we see the consecutive touchdown streak for Kalen Laburn end at 8 games. So that's kind of like oh man, that kind of sucks, but still, it's kind of hard to get mad when the Herd gets a win. So in back-to-back weeks, we've seen the 100 yards consecutive game snapped, and now the touchdown streak snapped. But still, he bounced back from a yardage standpoint. It's just that red zone offense is killing the herd right now. We're going to go right into stats and indicators. We're going to move all of the conversation about this game to grades because I think that's kind of where it fits best. So let's do that. Total yards, time of possession, first downs, and turnovers all swept by the herd. 387 yards for the herd against 209 yards allowed. 38 minutes, 11 seconds for the time of possession for the herd, 21:49 plus 16 and some change, Russ. We knew that was going to be a big deal, and it sure did turn out to be that way. First downs, 20 for Marshall, 12 for Old Dominion, and turnovers, boy, oh boy, 4 for ODU, 2 for the herd, and that also aided in the lack of points being put on the board. Cam Fancher, man, oh man, I don't know what to say about this one. Big time regression through the air, but a big time glow up on the ground. 13 to 25 for just 89 yards on the day. No touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 18 carries for 136 yards, but also a fumble. Kalen Laburn, 31 carries for 139 yards. EJ Horton was your leader in the clubhouse in receptions and yardage, just 4 catches and just 28 yards. But he was a guy that I said could have a potential to break out, and he did that a little. Well, not break out, but had a big game or had an important role in the game. All in all, this herd offense, 298 rush yards, only 89 passing yards, 5 of 19 on third down, 8 penalties for a 91 penalty yards. Again, yes, not all those are against the offense. We know that, but you got to put them somewhere. Defensively for the herd, Charlie Gray, 8 tackles, 5 solo, 1 quarterback hurry. Kerryon Martin, 6 tackles for 1 solo. Impact plays. The herd got 3 sacks on the day, which we also said was going to be a point of emphasis. The herd needed to do that, and they were able to do that a little bit. Sacks by Eli Neal, Taquez Legs, and then a half a sack each by Owen Porter and Emmanuel Balagoon. Interception by Abraham Beauplan, and that's about it. The defense, though, as a whole, shut out Old Dominion, held Ollie Jennings. This might be the most important stat of the day. Held Ollie Jennings, the number 2 receiver in receiving yards heading into that game, finishes with a stat line of 4 receptions for 30 yards. Outpaces our number 1 guy by 2 yards, and he was number 2 coming into the country. Held ODU to just 11 team rushing yards, forced 4 Old Dominion turnovers, held Old Dominion to 2 of 14 on third down and 0 of 2 on fourth down. Another lights out effort by this Marshall defense. Special teams, Reese Verhoff, 4 of 5 on field goals. He had his 3rd of the year blocked. John McConnell, 6 punts, 32.5-yard average with a long of 46. All right. That was a lot of stuff. You wanted to revisit your keys real quickly.
Without discussion.
That? Okay. Yeah. Do you want to do that right before the grades?
I want to do it now, just without discussion. Number 1 for me was contain Ollie Jennings. Check mark, 4 receptions, 30 yards, like you mentioned. Number 2, our offensive line versus their defensive line. Remember, they had 26 sacks coming in. We had given up 31. We gave up 0 sacks. We had 298 yards of rushing, and that's even counting, your tackles for loss. We gave up 6 tackles for loss. Still right at 300 yards rushing. You're going to take that all day, every day. Number 3, I said we had to get an interception coming into the game. He had only thrown 3. He had a great touchdown to interception ratio, and we got one. Number 4, I said we needed to win the kicking game. Well, we did. We got 4 field goals to their none. Yeah. And if you remember beforehand, I had picked Reese Verhoff as my MVP. I had seen a close, tight game that might come down to a kick. And I don't know that I would call him MVP yet. We'll get to that with grades, but he got all of our points.
Yep. So. My keys to victory real quick. I said the herd had to start fast, which they did not do. And by start fast, I mean points on the board early and not just field goals. So that's a no for me. Number 2 was your number 1, force someone other than Ollie Jennings to produce. They could not do that effectively. Only 11 team rushing yards. They did have another leading receiver. I can't remember. I think it was 60 yards was their leading receiver on the day.
Laburn had Javon Harvey.
Yeah, maybe? It was. Yeah. But I remember, I'm just talking about the yardage. Gotcha. I think it was somewhere around 60. Laburn had to get back on track in the 7.57, and he did that, and even talked about loving playing in that area and being in a friendly kind of confines type deal, even in an away game. And then number 4, the continued emergence of the pass attack, which we did not see, but guys like Charles Montgomery, E.J. Horton had to have bigger days coupled with Corey Gamage. Nobody had a big day, but from a reception standpoint, E.J. Horton grabs 4 and leads the team. So that's maybe a halfer. I don't know. It doesn't really blow me away either way, but that's the keys to victory. I don't think we did them all. Either one of us, the herd didn't check all the boxes for either one of our lists, but they did enough to get it done. So how about grades? What do you got for Cam Fancher?
We were 4 out of 4 on my list.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't get start fast, and I damn sure didn't get an emergence of a passing attack.
Cam Fancher, I'm going to have to go with a B minus, and there's going to be a bunch of people start already typing at RUSLIV, trying to tell me that I'm crazy. No, he got 225 yards on his own, and I think if we would have gotten that through the air, everyone would have said, 225 yards. He is a big reason we had 0 sacks. He stayed away from that, and that prevented us from having worse field position, maybe not being able to extend drives and get those points that we desperately needed on the field goals. He got in an 18 carries at 130, 18 carries, 136 yards.
Yeah.
So he had a 40-yarder and a 41-yarder. And we had talked about with the ODU guys that he's mobile. He helped win this game.
Mm-hmm.
B minus, all of the negatives go around that he was inaccurate at times, especially throwing on the run while he was outside of the pocket. He had some wide open receivers and missed them. One of the interceptions, that beautiful tip ball that Tobias Harris tipped to the other guy, he had someone had their guy beat on the other corner of the end zone, and he just wasn't looking that way. I could have gone down to the C mark, but when you're almost beating Laburn for yards, I have to bump him up to a B minus.
Yeah, I don't think that's entirely unfair. But I can't see 320 yards one week and then 89 yards the next week. So something's got to get ironed out there, right?
Sure.
Something's got to happen there. We've got to see a little bit more consistency. And I said that in the preview. I said, man, we don't need to see 300 yards. Give me 200, 250 yards, a touchdown and no interceptions. And we kind of went the other damn way with it. 89 yards, no touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Now, the one, I mean, I'm putting them both on him, right? They're both his fault because he threw it. It wasn't a tip ball or anything like that by our receiver. But, the second one was a great play, very athletic play, but you can't throw that ball where that ball was. It's got to go towards the corner of the end zone to where our guy gets it or it's out of bounds. So,
back shoulder, yeah.
I get it. Okay. The first one, you're throwing across your body and you don't even see the defender standing there and he just comes down with the ball. Now, look, we're not making excuses here because that's not what we're doing. You got to be better, and you're going to be better because he's still a redshirt freshman, still developing game by game by game, and you're going to see some inconsistencies until you work through those kinks. But still, I'm not going to make any bones about it. It's got to be better. 136 yards on the ground. Great. We're not going to see that every week either. So if you're a quarterback, your primary job is to probably pass the ball, take care of the football. And in those two capacities, it really wasn't there this week. So luckily we were just lined up against a defense that struggles against a mobile quarterback. And we have one of the nation's finest running backs. So that helped.
There was also another ball that was intercepted on an amazing play. Tobias Harris was, crazy good for them in the defensive backfield. He had 3 pass deflections. He had that one that went for an interception by the other guy. He made a one-handed diving interception on the sideline, and they called it for pass interference, and we got away with one. And on the replay, I did not see that as a pass interference. See, we're not always all pro Marshall here about every call has to go our way. We call it how we see it. And I saw that as just a really good defensive play. So we did get away with that one. Like I said, it wouldn't take much for me to bump him down into the C level, and maybe that's better. But, he picked up almost as many yards as Laburn did in less carries. And, we're talking about how good of a game that Laburn had on the ground. Yeah. So I just have to bump him up at least into the B level because of what he brought to the game. In his third start, 225 yards that he was responsible for.
So the last thing I'm going to say, so I just don't sit here and sound like a complete hater, is I understand, like, I don't want you to change what works just to bump up those passing yards, right? Because primarily, above all else, you're charged with doing what you got to do to win a game. So I don't care if it comes to 200 yards on the ground or 200 yards through the air. I don't care, as long as at the end of the day we get one in the left-hand column, right? That's all I care about. But I'm just saying, moving forward, we're not going to be lined up against teams like Old Dominion to where you're going to be able to get by with 89 yards passing. We were griping about those totals earlier in the season, and now we're going to gripe about them here too, because no one's above your reproach, right? And I get it. He's a freshman. He's learning. I get it. But if you're going to be QB1, you've got to perform like a QB1.
You do. And my gripe when we were at 89 yards earlier in the year and things like that was that we were only throwing, one, we were taking a bunch of sacks and holding on to the ball way too long. We were only throwing at the line of scrimmage or behind it. He was missing some, but at least he was throwing over the middle and downfield. So again, that to me, I mean, execution versus how you're doing it is a big thing for me. And you know, I have long said that when you're a freshman quarterback, you're not going to be dialed in with your accuracy. That's something that generally comes. If you look at people's stats, they progressively get better in their completion percentage throughout their career. I am not happy with only 89 yards passing, and I'm not passing it off as I am. He gets almost 100% of his grade based on he rushed and he kept us from getting sacks and he extended drives, and the defense did its job.
Yep, I agree. Offensively, what do you got for this Herd offense?
It's lower than Fancher, and that's going to make people's heads spin as well. But I give it a C plus. And we got 387 yards, I think it was, on total yards. We were 4 out of 5 in the red zone this game after struggling all year. We're still near the bottom, but 4 out of 5, and that was because of a block on this one. We had a lot to be proud of with rushing for 298 yards. We had a lot to be proud of for going 4 out of 5 in the red zone. We did what we needed to do as the game allowed it. And the second or the first points that we put on the board, we started on our own 8, and we went down and kicked a short field goal. The first time we started on the 10. You know, we had some bad field position earlier. Their punter pinned us back on the 1, the 4. I mean, we were pinned back quite a bit, and we still won the field position battle that helped our defense keep them scoreless. And that's a lot of the deal with the offense. We did what we needed to do to win the field position game. It did not translate to touchdowns.
Yeah. 4 or 5 for me sounds great. I mean, because it is, you think, oh, great, 4 or 5 out in the red zone, you probably had 21, 24 points. Well, if you look down at the scoreboard and you see 12, to me, that's like saying, you know, well, we had a high completion percentage, but we only passed for 100 yards. Same thing. Like, you've got to be, if you're going to be in the red zone, you've got to put 6 on the board and not 3. You can't make 4 trips into the red zone and then be able to get beat by 2 trips to the red zone. That can't happen. So at some point, Marshall's got to be able to find a way to punch that ball in. And I don't know
not going to win this week by doing that.
No, 4 field goals will not win this game, I don't think. I mean, unless something catastrophic happens with App's offense and they just cannot hold on to the ball. But I need to see a little bit more something. You know, I don't know what it is, and I know you don't want to, you know, throw the kid to the wolves and just throw every play you got in the playbook. I get it. But we had a little quick discussion on the social media there, like, you know, where's the play action pass? I think there were several times in the game where that would have been exploited phenomenally by the opportunities that were there.
I've been calling for it all year, and I think that we need to do more work. We've seen since Fancher has come in that he's been under center a few times, and that's when, in my opinion, play action works a lot better. But even throwing him in the pistol helps quite a bit instead of the shotgun for play action pass. And when you have the number 6 leading rusher in the nation, and people are keying on him anyway,
gotta have it, man.
Play action pass on a quick slant or a go route or a double move, throw some pump fakes in. Now, I'm not suggesting there will be people on here saying you can't have a play action pass and a pump fake because we've got to have 85 seconds back there to be able to throw it, and we can't do it. I'm saying
something,
not on the same play, not every play. But you don't want to do that on third down when they're going to be bringing the house. You're not going to have enough time for a pump fake and a double move. But
there are opportunities.
There are opportunities to pepper these things in, and we're not doing it.
Yeah,
but
just something.
Yeah,
just something creative, something.
But the offense, like I said, I'm not giving them an A. I'm not giving them, it's a C plus, and it's mainly because we ran for 298 yards and we won the field position.
I was going to say, we're sitting here sounding like we're griping and unhappy, and we almost put 3 bills on the board on the ground and won a game in a shutout. So
0 sacks for everyone that's been saying, hey, we've got an offensive line that can't do anything. We've got the number 6 rusher in the nation. We gave up 0 sacks. Again, it's not always on the line. We do have issues. No one's saying that we're firing on all cylinders on that line, but it's not as bad as what you may believe on social media.
Okay, so this might be the quickest and least talked about grade ever.
Right.
What do you got for this Herd defense?
A plus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Road shutout. Moving on.
Yeah.
No, seriously, we can just kind of move on, because what else are you going to talk about? A road shutout?
I mean, you could have talked about less penalties on the defense. You could have talked about needing to get more interceptions because the guy was throwing erratically because of how we were doing.
And our guys were there. They were
yeah.
I mean, inches away. Gilmore was inches away from having 2.
But I mean, that's splitting hairs when you went on the road, shut somebody out, and I mean, it was not even close. It's not like they missed a field goal or they missed a guy that was wide open in the end zone. They didn't come close to scoring. At no point were they really a threat to score.
I mean, what is 2 of 14 on third down? Marshall's third down defense has just been utterly dominant these past 3 games.
Those were both. It was the first and second possession of the game. The very first third down opportunity on their third play of the game, they picked up the third. And then the very first on the next drive, they picked up the third. So they were 2 of their first 3 and then 0 for their last 11.
Wow.
We just shut them down.
Yeah, it was a dominating effort. Special teams, what do you got for those guys?
More so because of the penalties, but the blocked field goal is a big one. I'm going to go with a C plus. You cannot have the 15-yard penalties on the kick returns or on the defensive part of the kickoffs. You cannot have a blocked punt. I don't think there was anything we could have done different on their all-world punter who looked like he was Steve Miserak making trick shots with the spinning ball and everything. Nothing really you could do about getting pinned back there, because what you don't want to see is you trying to fair catch near the 3-yard line or be in the way and give up a touchdown right away on something like that. But because of the block punt and the other things, I really got to take them down. I know we went 4 field goals, and that's great, but I got to take them down. I'm giving them a C overall.
Yeah, the block kick since it's the 3rd one of the year, I mean, it's now a habit, and it's not a good habit. So it's fair to drop that a whole letter grade because of that, because it continues to happen. Yeah. It's never a good time to have that happen. But when you can't find the end zone, you got to have every damn field goal you can get. Yeah. I mean, 15 would have been a heck of a lot more attractive than 12 in that game.
Well, think of it this way. And here's what I kept thinking. Your mind will run through scenarios and everything, and they had minutes left on the clock in the 4th quarter, and we were up 12 points. If they get a quick touchdown and an recovered onside kick, they are then throwing to go ahead
Yeah.
or win the game because we had a field goal block.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So it's even though, we were in no danger really, I just said, of them scoring, well, that can change on one play. One guy gets beat on a long throw and it's over with.
Yeah.
Because then they all of a sudden it's 12-7 and they can kick it off on sides, or if we're struggling, we have to punt it back to them. We're one play again away from losing that game.
Yeah, that just speaks to the importance of having to punch that ball in at least once or twice when you're in the red zone.
Yeah.
What do you got for other coaches this week?
I'd say a B, and almost all of that, I'm not putting it on them for the passing because the plays were there. Again, we weren't throwing screens and not getting yards. We were throwing downfield, and he just, had some bad throws, threw high on some, threw wide on some. But the coaches aren't the ones out there throwing. And I know people online are saying, fire offensive coordinator, fire the offensive line coach who is not the one calling the plays, and we had 0 sacks. But I give it all because we have a penalty problem. Yep. Is why I'm taking away these letter grades today. And this did not hop up in this game. It has been a problem all year long. Untimely penalties. We stalled drives because of these penalties. And it wasn't the 5-yard variety. We had several of the 15s. And they were drastically out of bounds. I mean, not even close. And we're still pushing and shoving people out of bounds. Face mask was a 15-yard penalty early in the game, pushed us back. It was a drive killer. We were pushing the ball down the field in our first drive from the 10, and we get that, and we ended up having to punt. Mm-hmm. So everything, it's not on the low passing yards. Everything going down is all because of those penalties, and it has to be, you have to have your guys disciplined to not do the stupid things that they were doing.
Yeah, some of those things you can just flat avoid. I mean, the late slinging a dude out of bounds when you're 2 steps out of bounds, you can't do that, man.
About 10 yards out of bounds on the one.
What makes you think you're going to get away with that? You're not going to get away with it.
And especially when they'd already called it earlier in the game, and you do it again, different guy, but it's already been called. They got called. It was some back and forth. Which, by the way, if we need to grade the refs, I'm going to go with an F.
Oh, wow, because they couldn't figure out what team was committing penalties.
Yeah, they were moving the ball, announced it, and everybody was accepting it. Even the fans in the stadium's like, well, I could see that. And the announcers are like, they don't have a number 30. They're like, oh, well, actually, we meant the other way. Sorry, my bad.
I've never once in a game seen the refs change a call 4 times.
Yeah.
No, we meant the offense did that. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, that was pretty rough. How about the fan grade this week?
I wish I could have gone so I could have seen how big our contingent was down there. From the people that I've talked to that were there, they said it was pretty nice. So I'm going to have to base it all on the online. I'm going to go with a D. And again, people can at me, I don't care. We won. We shut somebody out. And we got people complaining that we didn't shut them out good enough, that we didn't beat them by 35. And I get it, man. I want touchdowns too. But damn it, we won the game, and we're talking about firing people because we didn't get enough touchdowns in a shutout victory where we shut down the nation's number 2 receiver. And I understand that you can't do that every game, but we've done it multiple times this year. This is now is it 5th game or 4th game that we've not given up a touchdown?
Oh, I wouldn't know.
I think it's the 4th game out of 9 that we have not given up a touchdown on defense. That's gonna play. That's gonna put you in every game. Mm-hmm. And again, earlier in the season, I said no blowouts. After our season had gone downhill, I said we can't get blown out, and we haven't. And we won this game by 12. If it would have been something like 27-15, we would have been happy as could be that we won by 12. But because we shut them out and we didn't get touchdowns on the board, there are people saying we need to fire so-and-so. So-and-so wasn't out there throwing the ball. And I just gave that guy that was throwing the ball a lot of praise because he helped us win this game. I don't know what more to say than people are not happy no matter what. And I don't care. I don't care who that pisses off. I mean, it's not hard to find where I'm at to come tell me in person how bad I suck for having that opinion. But I'm not sitting here saying everything's 100%. I'm pointing out the things that we're doing wrong. But I'm not saying, guys, the season's over and all that. A lot of people that are complaining online, I also saw them earlier saying, I'll never be back to another game. So,
sure. Right.
That's why we're getting a D.
Here's the difference. I'll get on here every week and complain about something that I see that's wrong.
Yep.
But I'm still happy that we win.
100%.
I will sit here and go, well, man, it could have been better. But I don't care. It's a 12-0 win.
Yep.
Out 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever, I sat here and we talked about, will we make a bowl? And I said, I don't know if there's enough wins on the schedule. And
I still don't know.
I still don't know either.
Yeah.
But having one more sure does help. So
sure does.
I mean, you're going to have to go 1-2, 2-1 would be 3-0 would be great. But you're going to have to, at a bare minimum, get at least one, and hope that some other teams don't maintain eligibility, to free up some spots in bowl games. But look, can we go 1-3? Sure can. Can we go 3-0? Sure can. But we're going to have to see a lot more than what we're seeing.
Technically, we can't go 1-3 because there's only 3 games.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
1-2. Can we go 1-2? Sure can.
And for those that are listening, we talked about this on an earlier episode, but Marshall and App are in the same boat because of the late nature of joining the Sun Belt Conference and where they were playing each other is why we're in this situation. Both of them could only come up with an FCS opponent. So because there are 2 FCS opponents, only one of those games can count toward your 6 victories. You have to have 5 FBS wins, and a 6th can be against an FCS team. We technically need to finish 7-5 to be bowl eligible because we have 2 victories against that. We have filed a waiver, and I think we've already been granted it, but it would then be up to the bowls to select someone that only has 4 FBS victories and 2 FCS victories. So it could still happen. We could go 1-2 and still get a bowl. Yeah. Most likely we need to go 2-1.
Sure. And it's going to be a tough road to hoe still to do that.
Because it's a great conference.
Georgia State all of a sudden is looking very much improved. And Georgia Southern, we know, can pass the hell out of the ball. And even though App's record is exactly like ours, which we'll get into this in a minute, and all the similarities these 2 teams have, still very, very dangerous. They can score a lot of points in a quick way. So who's your offensive MVP this week?
Reese Furhoff.
All right.
And that is, I mean,
it's a special teams MVP.
Well, he was our only offense.
He's going to double dip this week.
So I am actually going to go with Fancher over Laburn, and that is because of what I said earlier. That is not an endorsement of 89 passing yards. That is not an endorsement of how inaccurate he was at times. But he did what he needed to do to help us win that game as his 3rd ever game to where he played the whole game. 3rd ever start, and he's now 2-1 with 2 road victories against 2 teams that we were wondering if we were going to win those games.
2 conference road victories.
Yeah.
Who's the defensive MVP for you?
The entire team. I can't. I'm going to cop out.
That's a great pick.
I can't highlight. There were a lot of people that did a lot of good in that game.
Yeah.
We could. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't show up in the stats that they did a lot, like making sure that Ollie Jennings wasn't open enough to be targeted. Does that show up? No, they didn't throw his way. But just an entire top to bottom team defense. They get the championship this week.
So now, who's your special teams MVP?
Reese Verhoff.
Yeah, without a doubt. 1 of 6 kickers now with 4 field goals in a game, which seems like it should be more than that, but that's some rarefied air in the kicking game and some all-timers. If you run down that list, there's some names that Herd fans go, yeah, that guy was clutch for us when he was around here. All right, so Herd's back on the winning track. They got to come back home where they have struggled mightily against FBS opponents, and we've got a big one coming to town Appalachian State. So let's talk about that one. The Mountaineers are coming to town, a 5-4 ball club, 3-2 in conference. Sound kind of sort of familiar?
Yeah.
Game's going down Saturday, November 12th at 3:30 p.m. at Joan C. Edwards Stadium. Also broadcast on ESPN Plus. This will be the 27th all-time meeting between the Herd and Appalachian State. The Mountaineers own a 15-9 edge in the overall win-loss record. These two teams played annually from 1977 all the way up to 1996. Then an outlier game in 2002, which I think App was a late addition to a bit of a scheduling shuffle, if I recall. I think that's the year we lost Miami at home and we added App late in the game. I might be wrong about that, but it seems to fit the narrative. And then, of course, this rivalry was renewed in 2020 during the COVID season and brings us up to now. App is just 6-4 all time in Huntington, though, including one of those losses, of course, was the 17-7 loss most recently in 2020 when App was ranked number 23. And of course, we all have visions of the Brandon Drayton peanut punch that goes right into the arms of Najee Johnson for the touchback in a game that kind of in a play that kind of sealed that game for the Herd. So what does this one mean for Marshall, Russ? Well, first and foremost, it's 75 week. And everything kind of sort of goes out the window during 75 week, no matter how good or how bad this Marshall team is that you field in any given year. Seemingly, their level of play rises a notch or two in this game. We always see some kind of weird, wild play that we don't see at any point in the game in the entire season. It seems to pop up in this game. And I'm talking about things like, I remember a few years ago we were playing Louisiana Tech, and Louisiana Tech was much better than we were. They were a heavy favorite. I don't know that they were much better, but we kind of put it to them in that game. And the weird play I remember was they were back for a 4th down punt, and the punter just dropped the snap, and it was like, that never happens, man. It was like clean. Everything was perfect. He just dropped it and set the Herd up like in the red zone in business. And it allowed us to, kind of start to run away with that game. I don't remember the final score. I want to say it was like 31-14 or 31-17. But anyway, you always see some kind of wild play. Now, of note, Huff in the Huff era, he struggled last year, 0-1 in 75-week games, 21-14 lost to UAB. So we got to get that one back on the right track. Doc Holliday famously said annually, how would you like to be a head coach of a team that plays a game that you cannot lose? And of course, he was talking about this game. And say what you will about Doc Holliday. Like him, hate him, whatever you think. The Herd came to play on 75 week, and by golly, they held serve almost annually in that game. Marshall, though, this year in 2022, 2-2 at home. Both wins are over FCS opponents. Both losses are to Sunbelt Conference opponents. The average score in those two games, 23.5-13. Appalachian State is very, very similar to Marshall this year, not just aside from the record, but some of these other things. Both of us have wins over a top 10 team occurred in the same week. We beat Notre Dame. They beat Texas A&M. They have a head-scratching loss to Texas State, just like we had head-scratching losses to Bowling Green. And they won on a Hail Mary against a Troy team that dominated. I don't want to say dominated. They had that game won. Troy was leading that game with 20 seconds to go. I was watching it. And instead of punting the ball away, they decided to take a safety and have a free kick. So upon the free kick, I think Chase Bryce hits maybe one completion. They got out of bounds, and then they hit the Hail Mary and beat Troy. Unbelievable. Could not believe it. That was the week that game day was in Boone. So 2 of their 5 wins also are against FCS opponents. This is very much a mirror image of the Herd. The problem is Mountaineers can score a lot of points. And right now we can't really score a whole ton of points. So instead of doing the last 3, since they have an FCS game tossed in there, I just decided to do the last 2 Sunbelt Conference games to see where they are. Because it's 2 conference games sandwiched in an FCS team in there for the App. App's 1-1 in those last 2 SBC games, scoring 38.5 points per game, allowing 22.5 points per game. They got a home win against Georgia State and a road loss this past weekend against Coastal Carolina. Yards per game offensively, Mountaineers are gaining 416.5 yards, allowing 388.5 yards. Turnovers on average, 1.5 in those two games for the Mountaineers. Total time of possession, right around 30 minutes. It's 29 minutes and 19 seconds. Conversely, the Herd also 1-1 in their last two. Points per game for the Herd, 12.5. Yowza. Points allowed, 12. So, whew, too close for comfort if you're a Herd fan. Home loss to Coastal Carolina, and then a road dub, of course, against Old Dominion. Marshall's gaining 397 yards on offense in those two and allowing just 240 yards on defense. Turnovers, though, average 2 per game for the Herd, just slightly ahead of the Mountaineers. And if this doesn't add up to almost be perfect, I don't know what does. Time of possession for the Herd in their last two, 31-35. 29-19 plus 31-35 is damn near 60 minutes. The last thing I was going to say, well, I guess I got one more thing, and then I'll get your bird's eye view. The power index, the dreaded power index, calling Marshall a home dog in this one, Russ. 45.3% chance to win for the Herd, but Vegas has Marshall at +1 and the over-under at 46. Give me your bird's eye view of this one, and then we'll get into some players to look out for.
Because they had a weeknight game on Thursday, they have an extra 2 days that they got to watch our game without having to worry about the game that they were preparing for, and then they had an extra 2 days of rest and recovery, so that's a benefit. It's a benefit for us to play at home, even despite our record. I mean, it's always a benefit for familiarity purposes to be where you're at and not have the travel involved and that sort of thing. Now, it's been inverse for us the last 2 home games, the last 2 away games, but still, I give that we have a benefit, they have a benefit, kind of offset each other, and a lot of the things that they're eerily similar, like you said. Both teams preseason were both expected to be doing much better than they are, maybe be the 2 top teams in the East. We both lost to Coastal in games that both of us probably could have won. I see this being a tight game. That's my bird's eye view. We can get into more about that here in a little bit, but right now I see a game where we're going to have to score a lot of points, and we're going to have to prevent them from scoring a lot of points. So I still think it's going to be tight.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if Marshall can go point for point with these guys.
So last year, and I know last year was a different team, but 2 years ago we beat them 17-7 in a close game, and the play that you had mentioned with knocking the ball out, and then last year we lost by 1, and we should have won that game. They tend to be close games here the last couple of years, so.
They have. And if that holds historically, then, most of our lines of thinking will hold true. But I tell you, this one scares me. And I don't really know what it is about it that scares me, because if you look at these teams, they look damn even. But they can just score a lot of points. And right now we can't score points. So of the 4, potential outcomes of this game, a blowout Herd win, a blowout Herd loss, or a tight Herd win, or a tight Herd loss. Blowout Herd win is not on my radar at all, but for some reason, this could be the one that blowout loss finally pops its head up. And I know it's 75 week and things go a little different during 75 week, but we can't find the end zone consistently right now. And that just freaking scares me. And now if it's a tight game, I like to lean towards Marshall. I think we can hold serve, and I hope the home crowd stays behind these guys, especially in the late game, the second half of a tight game. If you're like, I'm out of here, and the guys need every fan in the seat screaming and yelling and being loud when App has the ball and quiet as hell when we have the ball in order to make a difference for us to squeak one out, and you choose to leave, please don't tell me that, we should have won that game. Man, we're going to need every bit of support that we can get. So go and stay, right? Stay. It's 75 weeks. Stay. What are you in a hurry to go home for? But I don't know. We'll get into some keys to victory here in a minute, but we got some guys we got to talk about. I've got quite a few, on offense for this Appalachian State team, because they have several weapons and they can spread it around. They can all hurt you. And it starts, of course, with the quarterback, like it always starts with the quarterback. Number 7 quarterback Chase Bryce, 6'3", 235-pound senior. Marshall has struggled with upperclassmen quarterbacks this year, and notably, against Troy in a game that we should have won. If we'd have found any semblance of a passing game, we could have won that game. 174 out of 267 on the year, 2,200 yards, number 36 in the country in passing. Another, top 40 passer that the Herd's got to face. Another excellent touchdown to interception ratio, 24 touchdowns to just 5 interceptions. Here's probably the most scary part. Only been sacked 12 times through 9 games. Sign of something the Herd likes to hang its hat on, and that's not going to be easy for Marshall to do this week unless they just find a chink in the armor and are able to just get through like crazy. Duo of running backs Appalachian State has. We've talked about them over and over on several episodes, earlier in the season, and most Herd fans are going to know these names, right? Number 6 running back Cam People, 6'2", 225-pound junior, 93 carries for 572 yards on the season, 5 touchdowns. Also, number 5 running back Nate Noel, 5'10", 185-pound sophomore, 51 attempts for 336 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. We couldn't find an answer for Noel last year. He lit Marshall up pretty good. We held Cam in check, and Nate Noel kind of lit us up a little bit. And now you got a full complement of both those guys, as far as I know, playing, and that's not going to be easy to stop. A couple of wide receivers we'll talk about. Number 13 wide receiver Christian Horn, 6'2", 185-pound sophomore, 25 catches, 471 yards leads the team, and 4 total touchdowns through the air is tied for the team lead. Good for 18.8 yards per reception. And number 17 wide receiver Deshaun Davis, the 5'9", 165-pound sophomore, 33 catches leads the team for 389 yards and 3 touchdowns. Good for 11.8 yards per reception. He sounds very much like the chain mover that you like to find to just keep drives alive. All in all, this Mountaineer offense is very, very balanced. 254 yards per game on it through the air, 195 on the ground. They get 40% on 3rd down and 50% on 4th down. And yeah, it's a lot. 14 of 28. They go for it quite a bit on 4th down. Defensively, Mountaineers, I got a quartet of guys we'll talk about here. Number 4 defensive back Nick Ross leads the team in tackles. He's a 5'11", 185-pound junior. 51 total tackles, 28 of those solo, a pass defended, interception, and a forced fumble. And then a trio of linebackers. Number 15, Andrew Parker, 6'2", 240-pound junior, 45 total tackles. 18 of those solo, 1 sack and 1 pass defended. Nearly his mirror image, number 40, the linebacker, Logan Dublin, the 6', 220-pound senior, 44 total tackles, 17 solo, also a sack and a pass defended. Now get this one. Put a freaking circle around number 9, please. Linebacker Nick Hampton, 6'3", 225-pound junior, 35 total tackles, 20 of those solo, 8 sacks, 1 pass defended, 3 forced fumbles, and 3 fumble recoveries. Holy crap. You got to know where number 9's at. Please, please, please. Impact plays, 25 total team sacks for App State, 5 team interceptions, 10 forced fumbles, and 10 fumble recoveries. They are 8th. Here's might be the saving grace. They are 8th in the Sun Belt, not the nation, 8th in the Sun Belt in rush defense, but they are 1st in pass defense. Conversely, Marshall's number 1 and number 2 in the conference. All right, that's a lot of stuff. I know you like some stats and matchups, so where do your keys to victory fall this week?
So I'll get into more of the matchup things that here in a minute. To go to the keys of victory, I've got 4 because you like to have 4. I came up with 4. My number 1 is you have got to have pressure on Chase Bryce. It seems like no one ever does, and allows him to just sit back there and pick them apart. So I need my man Owen Porter and my man Kobe Cumberlander and my man Taka's legs to just go nuts and open it up. Maybe we get some linebacker blitzes or safety blitzes and come in with some stuff that we just rock this guy's world. Force him to throw scared, throw it away, maybe force a fumble on one of a big sack, or force him to throw a rare interception. But it's rare to get an interception and a sack against the guy. We've got to do it. We got to get pressure on him.
I don't know if you were copying my paper, but my number one key to victory is you got to get to Chase Bryce. You have to. The guy's played a lot of freaking football. Senior quarterback. He's been in a lot of big games, and there's just not much you're going to throw at him that he hasn't seen. That's why he's so daggone effective. He'll stand tall in the pocket, take the hits, deliver the throws. He's good, man. But what is a little bit more scary to me is not only do you have to get to Chase Bryce, you're going to have to keep App State as a whole behind the sticks because they're 40% on third down and they're not afraid to go for it on fourth down, and they're good from there 50% of the time. So if you give these guys 3 yards a game, 3 yards on first down, 3 yards on second down, they're going to get it on fourth down, third down. They're probably not even going to see a fourth down. So you're going to have to get those negatives and tackles for losses and, incomplete passes on first and second down to have any success. And I think it's all predicated on getting to Chase Bryce.
My number 2 is you've got to shut down the run, and this is not contain the run. Like I had said about Ollie Jennings, you got to shut it down. Noel has not played in every game this year. He's had some time that he's been out, but they have several guys that have stepped up, and they have, let's see, over 100 yards rushing. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 backs. Their leading rusher only has 572 in Peoples. Noel has 336. Harrington has 276. Marshall 161. Castle 152. Roberts 127. Roberts, by the way, is getting 7.1 yards of carry. Castle 6.3. Both Peoples and Noel are over 6 yards of carry. They just have a lot of different people that they can rotate into that backfield. And if our defense gets tired or they have a running back that gets tired, they can just rotate someone in that's fresh. So that's a little bit scary to me that they have a lot of touchdowns on the ground, 20 total, with 5, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, and 4. Spread out yards, spread out touchdowns, a lot of yards per carry. We have got to shut down that run. Good thing is Marshall's really good at it.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's what you don't know what you're going to get, because against Georgia State, this Appalachian team goes out and rushes for nearly 400 yards. And just last week against Coastal Carolina, they rushed for 88 yards.
Yeah.
So it's entirely possible to shut them down, and they didn't shut us down. I mean, we were able to move effectively.
We shut ourselves down.
Right. We shut ourselves down.
Because we were down 21 points.
If you look at that yards per attempt, it was still there. If you were able to extrapolate that and get those 35 carries, 40 carries a game, it was there. So that was 88 yards on 27 rush attempts. So you're capable of doing that. My number 2 key to victory this week is Cam Fancher must be a true dual threat quarterback. We can't have the pass and no run. We can't have the run and no pass. He's going to have to be able to do both. If they realize that they can keep you in, one-dimensional, I'm not sure that we're going to be able to go toe-to-toe, and point for point with them. But if we can prove that we can run the ball effectively, Cam can hold on to the football, protect the football, and move the ball down the field through the air, I think we've got a puncher shot here. I'm not going to say that Marshall's totally out of it, but it worries me that a team's putting up 36, 37 points a game and we're averaging 12 and a half. What's your number 3?
Let's see here. Number 3 is we have to score points. Now, does that sound stupid? Yeah. I mean, obviously you got to score points, but we have been struggling to do so, especially on touchdowns, and we need to score points because they score a lot of them. You mentioned it. Overall, they are 25th in the nation, 35.9 points per game. Our defense is 6th in the nation, only giving up 15.56. So we're 98th in offense at 23.4. We've played 2 FCS teams, but so have they. These rankings should then be fairly even. You can't say, well, they've had to play more FBS games than us. We just have not had that electric scoring except for one game this year. And we have got to bust it out. We have got to score points, and we need a bunch of them.
Yep, we sure do. I mentioned this in passing in the number 2 point about how Cam takes care of the ball, but that's my number 3 key to victory. As a team, Marshall's going to have to take care of the ball on offense. And I'm going to say that because Appalachian State has 10 forced fumbles on the year. And famously, we've been talking about how Marshall puts the ball on the ground, particularly in the red zone and particularly inside the 5-yard line. So that is one of those game within the games that I might be paying a little extra attention to. We have a penchant to fumble the football at times, and they obviously have a penchant to knock the ball out. So you got to protect the football. They're not that great at coming down with interceptions, only 5 on the season, whereas we're nearly like triple that. So this is a good matchup. Another good matchup is this, number one pass offense, or maybe not number one pass offense. Oh, it's pass defense, but this effective, efficient pass offense of Chase Bryce and this Appalachian State team versus our secondary. But we got to protect the football. What's your final key to victory?
We have got to win the turnover battle. It could come down to that, and if it's a 4-3, 2-1, 1-0, no matter what it is, we've got to come out on top on that. We have got to flip the field with a turnover. We've got to maybe flip the score where they're driving for a touchdown and we take it away from them and go get our own and make it a 14-point swing or a 10-point swing or whatever. We have got to do that, and we've got to win the turnover battle. They don't have a lot of them, but in fact, they are tied for 27th, only giving up 4 fumbles on the year, and they are tied for, let's see here, on interceptions. They're tied for 29th, only getting 5 interceptions. So they've had 9 turnovers through their 9 games.
I mentioned this in the recap, but I think our number 4 key to victory is being creative on offense without being gimmicky on offense. Sprinkle in those play action passes, sprinkle in those, pump fakes and double routes, double moves. I mean, something, because we're seeing everything be very, very vanilla. I will say that I'm glad we've moved away from the heavy screen game and started to move to the short, intermediate, and even the longer route. But I need to build off of that foundation now. I need to see chapter 3 of the textbook instead of just chapter 2. It's going to take something that App hasn't seen from us, a different, wrinkle that we haven't shown anyone yet. And hopefully that kind of coincides with the further development of Cam. All right, he's ready for, to try something else. And, but just something. It doesn't have to be all brand new, but when the opportunities are there, like we saw against Old Dominion, you need to be ready to pull the trigger on some of those creative-ish plays that we haven't run yet and see if you can connect on 1 or 2 of them.
Final thoughts for me that are not keys for victory, but like you said, I've got my matchup rankings here, things to watch for. Their rushing game, they're 29th in the nation at 194.9. They are right behind us. We're 26th, but they are good at rushing, 195 a game. We are 3rd in the nation and just less than a yard less than James Madison at number 2 in the nation, only giving up 78.7 yards a game. Another matchup, you had mentioned that they get 40.4% on third down conversions. That's 58th in the country. We are number 1 still, and it got better, 20.6, nearly half of what they are. Let's see. Their total offense, they're 29th in the nation at 449.3. We're 8th in defense, in total defense, only giving up 274.6 yards. One of the things that kills us here, red zone. Even though we went 4 out of 5, we're still 128th out of 131, only getting 69.4%. We've now had 3 blocked kicks in there, and we know we've got 3 fumbles in there, so that would go up quite a bit. But they are 20th in defense in the red zone, 76%, 19 out of 25. So there's some there's some scary points here.
Yeah, there are.
That's
why I'm saying, like, this could be the one where Marshall finally doesn't match up in enough of the vital categories that one gets out of hand.
They're also very good. We're 98th with those 7 fumbles you said that we've gotten, and they are 10th in the country getting fumbles. So they have recovered 10 fumbles. We still stack up well against them and quite a bit of stuff. Time of possession, some of these things that could really play a factor in it. We are very good at forcing turnovers. We are tied for 7th in the nation with 13 interceptions. So we do it well, like you said. They don't turn it over that much. Somebody's got to bend, somebody's got to break. They've got a good running attack. They don't throw it over. They don't throw interceptions. We're very good at stifling the run, and we're very good at getting interceptions. So we do have the matchups, but do we have enough of them? Are we going to struggle in the red zone against where they match up well? That's the key. So just some areas to watch.
Exactly. It's all going to boil down to who can score the freaking points on whose defense, and that's a tough one. I mean, we get in our own way, but we get in other people's way. That's kind of what Marshall is right now.
I left one out on this where to watch. Scoring, I mentioned that they were 35.9, and we are 6th at, I don't know if I said that earlier, at 15.56. So they are good at scoring, but we're good at making people not score.
We're good at getting in their way. That's right. Who's your ThunderCast player of the week this week?
I think it's going to be the defense as a whole. And I think it's going to have to be one of those where we have a lot of interceptions, we have a lot of forced fumbles, we have a lot of sacks, but it's going to be a team effort. I give the defense being the team MVP.
Yeah, that's obviously fair. You're going to need another lights out effort from the defense to probably keep this one in the wheelhouse for Marshall to get one. But I still think that it's going to be predicated. I'm back on the Kalen Laburn train. He bounced back in a big way, and we're going to have every yard that he can get for us to, move us down the field, unless we just see something unforeseen and the offense just clicks and everything just seems to work. We've seen those games in the past. We just haven't seen it yet this season. From a whole standpoint. Maybe this is the one because it's 75 week and you never know what the heck's going to happen. Do you have a score prediction this week?
I do. 27-21, Marshall.
Okay, you like it a little bit more high scoring than I do, but I just cannot. I cannot pick against Marshall on 75 week. I can't do it. I mean, I just can't. I like it lower scoring. Give me Marshall 20, Appalachian State 17, and a tight one for the Herd, but finally securing a Sun Belt Conference home win.
So I changed mine from 21 to 17 to the score there, 27-21. But that was just, I talked myself into it, but I had 21-17 written down.
Yeah, I feel like 4 or 5 trips into the red zone, maybe we punch it in twice, a couple of more field goals, something like that. But anyway, any way you want to look at it, this is going to be a hard road. This is going to be a much harder road for a Herd victory, I think, than it will be an Appalachian State victory. I feel. So, if you don't have any final thoughts on this one, we've talked about it a ton. Let's take it around the Herd.
Well, the only thought that I have is for any App State fans that may be listening. We want to invite you. KD will be in, so he'll be at the tailgate. We want to have not just Herd fans there, but swing on by and we'll show you hospitality and everything. It's kind of what Marshall's all about, and it's definitely what the ThunderCast is about. For our Herd listeners, make sure that you come by there as well. Just ran into a couple of people and over the last week that have just found out about us, and they're going to stop by at the tailgate, say hello. But should be a good time, and we want to see everybody there, and hopefully a good game to watch. Now,
well, wait a minute. I'll echo off of that too. Yeah, if there are going to be some App fans that come to town, please look us up. The only request that I will ask of you is bring some of your, now do this because it's alcohol across state lines. You don't want to get caught, but bring some of that Appalachian State signature beer so that we can have a little beer off with the Herd Country Lager. We'll trade beer for beer with you, and we'll just see how that goes. But if anybody listens and you can get your hands on that, bring some. Just don't tell the authorities you're taking alcohol across state lines.
Yeah, and if you win, I'm going to report you.
All right, now we can go around the herd.
All right. And like I've ever cared about taking something across state lines, it's
well, we're just trying to follow all applicable laws here.
Whatever. I don't do that. It's all right. So women's soccer. We told you we hoped that we had something to talk about when we did our last around the herd, and boy, did we! They beat App State, upset them 2-1 in an overtime victory in the first round. And that put them in the quarterfinals for the first time ever, which I could not believe. Then they went up against number 2 South Alabama and were in it till the very end. They even through one overtime, we were still tied, and then South Alabama got a couple of late goals, and they lost 3-1 to the number 2 seed in the tournament, and that ended their season. But yeah. What a way to end. I feel like they just had a much better toward the end, especially in the 2 tournament games. They showed up and they showed out, and that South Alabama team looks scary good and nearly pulled off the victory.
Anytime you can talk about for the first time ever, I don't care what it is. That's an accomplishment. And we talked about them having a rough stretch, the women's soccer team having a rough stretch and trying to get it right. And then I don't know what changed, but a little bit of a corner was turned, and they went on a little bit of a run and started gaining some momentum. And then you end up, it was like they were thrilled just to be in the conference, get that nod to make it to the tournament, and then to actually go in and win a game. Big deal. It's a big deal. It's a huge deal. So I'm excited for those gals. I'm excited for the whole program, up, onward and upward and onward, and already excited for, next season. And you better believe it will be season ticket holders once again, and trying to get people in the seats to watch you guys continue the climb. But excellent job. Congratulations on a great season, and congratulations on some of those postseason accolades as well. That's really cool.
Yeah. Men's soccer. They shut out James Madison 2-0 in the regular season finale to secure the number 2 seed. We had mentioned all those different scenarios. We got it done. What we didn't get done was on Sunday, where I was there, we dropped the rematch 1-0, and season's done except for, for the conference, the season's over. Where I was really thinking we had a shot to have a showdown with Kentucky in the championship game and come out with a conference championship. Now it's on to the tournament, where we know that we're going to get an at-large bid. I can't fathom a scenario where we don't. So we're probably going to have one game at home, and then we'll be on the road the rest of the way I figured.
So if I'm recalling correctly, Marshall took a late season loss in 2020 as well, maybe even an early exit out of the conference tournament. I don't recall what the scenario was, but it seemed to galvanize that team and kind of refocus, like needed to get punched on the chin a little bit to refocus and go, all right, now it's time to go and run. And oftentimes we see that, oftentimes we see, these teams that are rolling, they catch an early exit from a tournament or something like that, and then it just is refocusing, and you run roughshod through a tournament and end up winning the whole damn thing.
If I'm not mistaken, they were the conference champions.
They might have been. I'm just saying there was I remember a late loss or something in that season that I wasn't really paying close attention to soccer at that point. I was just starting to watch, and I remember them going, wow, I remember other people saying, well, that was a shocking loss or whatever it was. And they went, so that's what it was. It was either a late regular season loss or something like that, to where they went on a run and won the tournament, and then, won the College Cup as well. But oftentimes those happen. Maybe this is one of those things. Now you get regrouped and refocused. And I was watching that game against James Madison yesterday, and it's wild how one mishandled pass is what led to that goal. One mishandled pass just didn't get handled, rolled out of bounds. James Madison takes possession, and a couple, pinball-y type moves, and boom, there goes the lone goal of the game. And you're thinking, dang, well, at least we've got the whole second half to make something happen.
And we had a wide open goal a couple of times too that we missed a shot that I know our guys have made all season long, that we just wanted to have it have it fall our way, and it just at the wrong time it did not.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I have to say, I had a tweet about this about, I know it's soccer and I know it's part of the game that you have flops and you have whining and complaining, but man, did that team whine and complain and flop. You would have thought they had been shot in the leg with a shotgun on some of the times. I mean, like, had to stop the clock for 15 minutes, and then as soon as the guy realized he wasn't getting a foul, it's like he jogged off the field.
Mm-hmm.
It just it's crazy for me, and it really made me mad during trying to watch this game. But it seemed like that was a concerted effort for them to try to disrupt Marshall, and it seemed like it worked.
Yeah. Well, it must have, because they got the victory and we got an early exit.
Yeah.
Where are we at now?
We are at men's basketball. They won their second and final exhibition game against Pikeville, 83-69. The season tips off tonight. They're playing Queens University out of Charlotte at 7 p.m. So that game's on ESPN Plus. Get your first dose of the herd tonight, 7 p.m., and hopefully get a little bit of preview of what the rotation might look like and what some of these freshmen that we talked up on our preview, what they look like.
Yeah, of course, by the time this episode gets posted, that game will have already played, because we're recording Wednesday or Monday. It probably won't go up until Tuesday. But basketball season is upon us, and always going to take the moment to say we have season tickets. We'll be giving away tickets to every home game for men's and women's outside of the home opener, which has already been awarded due to a act of kindness. So all those contest tweets and stuff will be going up. So just keep a lookout for those.
Women's basketball, to keep it on the court, they travel to Purdue on Thursday for their first game of the year, and tip-off is at 6 p.m., and it will be on Big Ten Plus Network. KD, we did a men's preview last week.
Yep.
But the nature of this season, the women did not have an exhibition game to where we could really get a feel for it, and their roster had a great big overhaul via the transfer portal and people that they brought in. So our women's preview is going to be after this game, so we can get a little bit of a glimpse on it. We haven't talked directly to the coaches to be able to get a handle on who the starters should be. So we're going to have to wait and watch this game and then be able to do a preview.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. We didn't get any exhibition games to get anything, kind of any general idea. And with so much turnover, it's just too hard to speculate what it might look like. We have an idea who some of those major players might be as far as the starting five goes, but it's just too much new. I mean, so yeah, we'll have to wait till a game gets played and then, try to bring that to herd fans.
Yeah. Next year, a little bit too late, but next year we hope to have one of the coaches on to try to help us with that because they're just set up different without the exhibition games and that sort of thing. All right, volleyball, they lost to James Madison in 5 sets on Friday and then 4 sets on Saturday. And they close out their regular season this Thursday and Friday at home against Arkansas State. So before they go to the tournament, this is your last chance to swing by. If you're coming into town for 75 week and you get here Thursday or Friday, make sure you swing by the cam and watch these girls play.
And I might add that I saw earlier on Twitter that it's going to be 80s night. I believe that's Thursday night, and then probably senior day Friday. But hey, man, take it back to the 80s on Thursday night. That's, if you got nothing to do, you might as well go rock out at the cam in your finest 80s regalia.
I can't wait to see yours. Swimming and diving, man, great success in the Bowling Green meet this past weekend, and we just have to read off some of these things. They had 12 first place finishes across the Friday and Saturday events. And here's what we go here. 6 of those was by Esther Laban or Laban. Madeline Hart got 2, Paige Banton had 2, and Mia McBride had 1. And the team of Mia McBride, Paige Banton, Madeline Hart, and Clava Katayama, they brought a first place victory as well. We are going to, if we haven't already, tweet this out on our Twitter page. So go by and look at the results. They have here like the 1,650-meter freestyle. Esther Laban had 17 minutes 20 seconds for first place overall. Third was also a Marshall player at 17:52. Between first and third was a 32-second difference. So go look at these. It's a little bit of an eye opener, so you can see what these girls are doing, and it tells you a little bit why they might be fourth ranked in the preseason. Looks like we've got some good talent there.
Yeah, dang, 12 first place. That's pretty cool. I mean,
it is.
I don't know how many events there are at one of these meets, but still, that's a big number. I don't care what it is.
Yeah, there were quite a bit, and the deal was it was at Bowling Green for just heads up Marshall versus Bowling Green for all that Friday event, and then it was 3 teams. Toledo came in with Bowling Green, so it was 3 teams on the meet on Saturday, and we raked up 12 overall number 1 victories. Really good day.
Yeah.
All right. Tennis. They are competing in the Liberty Invitational on Friday and Saturday, and that closes out their fall schedule. And lastly, cross country will be on this Friday, the 11th, competing in the NCAA Mid-Atlantic Regionals. That'll go on all day Friday, and that will be the end of their season. Well, fall season.
Yeah, end of the fall season. Man, some of it's coming to a close as others begin. It's basketball season upon us, and some of these fall sport championships and now we're into the NCAAs, I guess.
Yeah.
So not bad. You got any final words before we head out of here this week?
Just that we love our sponsors, and we continue to thank 304carwreck.com and ignitelink.com. And if you are interested in becoming a sponsor like they are, messages. We've got the Around the Herd segment that we can do, and we're always looking for more tailgate sponsors like we had earlier in the year.
Yeah, it'll be pretty cool. Just reach out if you think your business would be a good fit with the ThunderCast. I'm pretty sure it would be. I mean, if you're in and around the local Huntington-ish area, Huntington, Ashland, even Charleston. I mean, wherever you want to reach folks that are listening to our show, we'd like to help you out. We'd like to help get your business out there. I am excited to make my way back to Huntington, West Virginia this weekend for 75 week. I haven't been back to a two games in a season since I moved away. So this is one I've been looking forward to. I was really hoping that I would be able to get this weekend off, and I sure have. So I'm looking forward to being able to tailgate with everybody. I'm looking forward to maybe even catching some of the volleyball game if we can if I can get in town and that works out. That would be pretty cool. But we need this one, man. We need this one. We need to just go ahead and take care of business against Appalachian State. I feel like this is a real measuring stick game for Marshall, if that makes any sense, because we're so evenly matched, and this is a team that's been so good for so long in this conference. And with the overall strength of this conference rising, some of these teams that have been historically strong the past number of years are taking a beating at the hands of some of these other teams, which is something we thought was going to happen. But I still feel like, even though we're both 5-4, this is a measuring stick game for Marshall. And if they can get this win, they can protect 75 week, protect the Joan, and get to that 6th win plateau. That should quiet a lot of that rumbling from the fan base. And you know what? I've been thinking about it. And I think a lot of it is amplified because Marshall hasn't won games at home. They beat Gardner-Webb, they beat Norfolk State. If we have the exact same record, but we're going on the road and losing, I bet people are less vocal, because they pay their money to show up and they go to the games and they want to see a win. And I get that. So I really feel like on a number of reasons, for a number of reasons, if Marshall can get this win, this will go a long way for team goals, for program goals, and to, silence the fan base a little bit and bring a little bit of positivity back to Huntington. You got nothing else to take us out of here.
All right. Whether you see us at the volleyball game at the Cam, whether you see us over at the Dot, whether you see us over at the C Lot, where both of us will be tailgating together for the first time since we moved to the C Lot, no matter where you see us, we're going to be yelling. Go Herd.
Go Herd. It's the ThunderCast. We'll see you next week. Later.